Ladies and gentlemen, a first snapshot is out for Minecraft 1.19.3, but also containing experimental feature flags, and through those, the features revealed at Minecraft Live for Minecraft 1.20. My name is Sliced Lime. Let me show you how all of this fits together in Snapshot 22w42a. Let's start with those experimental feature flags. These are toggles meant to hide unfinished or experimental features from regular worlds. That means that some features now only show up in a world if an experimental feature flag has been turned on. You do that by enabling a built-in datapack. In this snapshot there are two of those, one for the bundle and one for all the new things for update 1.20. Once you've created a world, you can't change these settings, you can't enable more flags, and you can't disable the ones you activated when the world was created. Worlds with any experimental flags on will show up marked as experimental in your world list. In other worlds, experimental items won't exist, you can't get them using a give or set block command, they aren't in the creative inventory, and so on. Experimental entities don't spawn and cannot be summoned using a command. So what are those experimental Minecraft 1.20 features in this snapshot? Let's start with the Camel. The Camel is a new mob available when the update 1.20 experimental features are enabled. They are passive mobs with 32 health, that is 16 hearts, and they spawn naturally in desert villages. Camels will follow a player holding cactus and can be fed cactus to breed. If you saddle a camel, it can be ridden by two players, where the first player steers and the second player is free to do other things such as fighting. They are tall, so player height mobs will not be able to reach players on top of a camel, and they have long enough legs to step over fences. They'll randomly lay down and need to slowly get up before moving. When riding a camel, they can either walk slowly or sprint. They also have a dash move activated using the jump button. This is a yeet forwards rather than a leap upwards, and using it drains the camel's stamina. A dash can extend more than 10 blocks when executed perfectly. After dashing, the camel cannot sprint or dash again until it has recovered, which takes a few seconds. Let's move on to the experimental blocks and items. First of all, bundles are now available as an experimental data pack. Just enable them when creating the world to get access. If you have a world with bundles already enabled through a custom data pack, that will keep working like before. There are also a bunch of new blocks and items in the update 1.20 experimental feature pack. Let's start with a new wood set, the bamboo wood blocks. Bamboo planks can now be crafted by placing bamboo items in a 2x2 pattern to get one plank item. These can then be crafted into all the regular wood items, including doors, trapdoors, stairs, slabs, fences, fence gates, buttons, pressure plates, and signs. There's also a mosaic plank variant crafted by placing two bamboo slabs on top of each other. These can then be crafted into slabs and planks with the normal recipes. There are also boats and chest boats for bamboo, but they have a unique model and name. Instead of being bamboo boats, they are bamboo rafts. They work just like any other boat though. Another new experimental set of items are the hanging signs. Hanging signs are made of 6 stripped logs and 2 chains, which gives you 6 hanging signs. They are available for all types of wood, with a special case for bamboo, in which case they're crafted using planks instead of stripped logs, and you only get 2 hanging signs from that recipe. Hanging signs can be hung underneath blocks with wide support, where you get 2 vertical chains. You can also hang them on a solid side of a block, or on the side of another hanging sign, in which case you get a horizontal support rod. A third way is to hang them underneath a block without wide support, in which case the chains both go to a single support point on top. This also works with hanging signs under other hanging signs. Signs in this configuration can also be placed in 16 different angles, as opposed to the other hanging sign placements that can only be placed in the 4 cardinal directions. If the hanging sign is hanging off the side of a block, it will remain floating in the air if that block is broken. But if it is hanging underneath a block, it will pop off immediately if that block is broken. Just like a regular sign, the text on the hanging sign is on the front and the back side is blank. One difference is that the space available for text is much smaller than on a regular sign. In other aspects, the hanging sign works just like a regular sign. You can dye them using dyes, and make them glow using glow ink. And just like regular signs, they can also be waterlogged. The final new experimental block in the 1.20 update pack is the chiseled bookshelf. This is a new block crafted from 6 of any type of plank and 3 of any type of wooden slab, where the slabs go where the books would go in a regular bookshelf recipe. This gives you an empty bookshelf that can be placed and used to store books, that is, regular books, enchanted books, writable books, and written books. Each bookshelf stores up to 6 books, which are filled in sequence starting top left and filling into the right. Interacting with the bookshelf while not holding a book will take the last book out of the shelf. There's also comparator interaction with the bookshelf. A comparator will output a signal strength matching that of the book that was last interacted with. Note that this isn't the same as the number of books in the shelf, which produces some weird effects. If you place book 4 in the bookshelf, the signal strength will be 4. But also if you take book 4 out, the signal strength will still be 4. This also means that once you've put a book in the bookshelf, the signal strength can never drop below 1 again. A chiseled bookshelf will not interact with a hopper, so it is not possible to insert or remove books automatically. Unlike regular bookshelves, chiseled bookshelves do not increase the power of enchanting tables. The right tool to mine a chiseled bookshelf is an axe. Doing so will make any books inside spill out on the ground just as if you'd mined a chest. However, using a regular axe, the bookshelf itself vanishes. You have to use Silk Touch for it to drop. Let's move on from the experimental changes in the snapshot to other changes. There's lots more yet. Before we dive into that, please take a moment to drop an experimental click on the like button for this video. That helps tell YouTube it should spread this video further, so I'd really appreciate it. Thanks! Let's move on to changes in creative mode. An overhaul has been done to the set and layout of the tabs in the creative inventory to make finding relevant blocks and items easier. The new tabs for blocks are building blocks, nature blocks, functional blocks, and redstone blocks. The new tabs for items are tools and utilities, combat, consumables, crafting, and spawn eggs. The survival inventory, saved hotbars, and search tabs still exist, but the search tab now shows items ordered by how they appear in the other tabs. So, for instance, all the building blocks appear before the nature blocks. Plenty of items have moved around, and some now appear in several tabs. They're now ordered by their material as much as possible, so for instance all the oak blocks are now found in the same place. The petrified oak slab item has also been removed from all the tabs. To get it, you will now have to use a command. Note that this is the first iteration of this layout and the team is looking for feedback. Outside the creative inventory, there's also one creative mode related bug fix. Barrier blocks and structure void blocks no longer produce any particles when broken. Let's talk about changes and fixes to mobs. Mobs can no longer spawn on top of chorus flower or scaffolding. When dangling on a lead, mobs would build up fall damage, which could make them die with the slightest touch on the ground. That is fixed in this snapshot. Cats no longer break their leads when giving their owner a morning gift. If you place a shulker in a chest boat, the shulker now sits at the right height. This also goes for allays in all kinds of boats and carts, and speaking of allays, a number of fixes has been made to their rendering and animations, with their wings now being properly attached, their motion no longer being as choppy, and them rendering as semi-transparent when they are supposed to. Allays no longer hesitate for a few seconds before actions such as following a player or throwing out an item. They no longer dance while panicking. They no longer pick up arrows or potions that don't match the one they're holding, and they no longer attempt to pathfind outside the world border when close to it. Other mobs have seen pathfinding fixes too. Axolotls and frogs no longer sometimes fall into deep holes when pathfinding around them, and mobs in general no longer fail at pathfinding around sharp corners. Frogs also no longer try to jump to small blocks and miss. Some rabbit fixes and changes. They would continuously try to eat carrots in farms, which is fixed in this version. And rabbits now always drop meat when killed. You can now saddle zombie horses, mules, and donkeys by interacting with them while holding a saddle, and you can also equip horse armor that way on horses, and carpets the same way on llamas. Breeding a screaming goat and a regular goat now has the appropriate chance of resulting in a screaming goat. And speaking of breeding, villagers could sometimes breed when not standing up. That is fixed in this version. In gameplay changes, jumping on farmland no longer causes the player to get pushed a slight bit. You can now hold Q to drop items rapidly when inside any container screen. If you set your spawn on a bed right underneath the end portal, you would get stuck in the end, since attempting to leave would respawn you on your bed and immediately teleport you back into the end. Your bed will now instead count as blocked. If you died, the Skulk Shrieker warning level would immediately reset to 0, that is no longer the case. In some cases, pressure plates didn't activate even though it looked like they should, that is fixed in this version. When at high coordinate values, creepers exploding would cause ghost blocks, that is fixed in this version. Mud brick slabs now have the correct colors on maps. The birthday song advancement is now a task rather than a challenge and no longer plays a very loud noise when granted. The use statistic for goat horns now increases properly when a goat horn is played. And nether portals can now replace snow layers. In world generation news, stronghold placements have shifted a bit as a result of making the code more efficient. They are still placed in the classic pattern of concentric rings, but the angle within the rings will have shifted slightly. This means on the same seeds, strongholds might not look exactly like before or even be found in the same places. However, any strongholds already generated or located in a world will remain where they were. Some bugs have also been fixed with melons sometimes generating underwater, and one farmland block in a Plains Village farm has been fixed to have the correct moisture level. In chat news, the chat preview function has been removed. Chat trust status indicators are now grey to white rather than red and yellow, and how the indicator appears has been tweaked. Chat messages that have been filtered by a server now show up with a filtered text in grey hashes with a hover text explaining that the text has been filtered. If a moderator on a server deletes a chat message, that message will now still be visible for at least 3 seconds in total before being removed, and will then be replaced by a message saying this chat message has been deleted by the server, instead of vanishing entirely. Let's talk about visuals. Vibration particles no longer face at a constant pitch of 60 degrees. The chest latch now rotates correctly when a chest is opened and closed. Water now renders properly through the model of frog spawn. In user interface news, there's a new accessibility option controlling the scroll speed of the main menu background panorama, ranging from 0% to 100%. Along with this, a bug has been fixed where the panorama would stop spinning if the game was left idling in the main menu for several days. Several problems have been fixed with click sounds playing double or too loud in the various option screens. The narrator disabled pop-up now renders properly. The Realms News button now shows a confirmation screen before opening a link, and the names of the built-in packs are now properly translated. There are also 5 new splash texts. You are valid. I'm glad you are here. You are welcome here. Your gender is valid. And contains infinite genders. In audio news, there is now a distinction between the sounds of different wood sets, one for bamboo, one for the rest of the overworld wood types, and one for the nether wood types. Here are the sounds for placing or breaking blocks. Walking on them. Pressing a button. Opening and closing doors. Opening and closing trapdoors. And opening and closing fence gates. There's also a sound for placing or breaking a hanging sign. The new chiseled bookshelves also have sounds for placing and removing books. Of course, there are also camel sounds. It has an ambient grunt sound. Sounds for walking. And for walking on sand. A sitting sound. A sound for standing up. For eating. Dashing. Recovering from a dash. For hurting. And for dying. A number of sound bugs have also been fixed, including sounds not being emitted from the right part of a jukebox or composter. The sounds for collecting honey and creating mud being controlled by the wrong volume slider, and the sound for a tadpole growing up missing its subtitle. In stability news, several crashes have been fixed and a bug has been fixed where starting a server with data packs using custom world generation didn't work. And that, finally, is the end of all the gameplay changes in this version. If you're also interested in the technical changes behind the scenes, I'll have a video about those as well later. But that's it for now. My name is Slicelime. Thank you for watching.